Hey, what's up, guys? It's Lizzy Jane, and we're back with another episode this week of the podcast. I have special guest Ravenscoon joining me. We are just upon the era of his debut album coming out. It is so exciting that we got to talk about it all throughout the conversation. Paul and I actually toured together with Peekaboo shortly after COVID on the tail end of 2021. And ever since then, we have wanted to sit down and have a conversation on the podcast. I'm so stoked we finally got to make this happen. We talk about touring, his creative process, breaks, bringing, experiences from life into his own music, and so much about the album and tour coming this fall. Without further ado, this is Lizzy Jane, and you're tuning into the Lizzy Jane Podcast with special guest Ravenscoon. Hey guys, so lately I've seen a ton of larger shows I've been playing at that a lot of these festivals and venues are no longer allowing bags that are not clear. Well, guess what? Lunchbox Packs is coming in clutch again. They have just stepped up their anti-theft bags by releasing a fully clear hydration pack and snack pack. This is an absolute game changer for your summer festivals and events. Each bag is made out of TPU material that is incredibly durable, flexible, and made to not alter under extreme sun exposure over time. You also have the option to bring a skin in your bag on the way in, and once you're through that security line, you can zip on your skin for privacy of your belongings and to add some extra personalized fun flair. These hydration packs meet the majority of all festival regulations and guidelines. As always, these packs have all of the awesome anti-theft features as the original hydration and snack packs. Make sure you use code LizzyJane for $10 off any hydration pack and code LizzyJ for $5 off any snack pack. I will see you at the rave. The show today was brought to you by Vitaplur E-Boost Gum. With no pill to take or powders to mix, Vitaplur E-Boost Gum is a first-of-its-kind energy rave supplement that provides magnesium, electrolytes, and antioxidants while you chew. Vitaplur is the perfect complement to my active lifestyle, whether it's at the festival, on the road touring, or hitting the gym. Chew Vitaplur and dance with confidence. Use code LizzyJane for 10% off any order.
Ravenscoon, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad we could do this. We've been talking about this for quite some time. So
I know. I feel like it's a long time in the making.
It is. I feel like you were talking about it literally on the Peekaboo tour, like 2021.
Which to me feels like 4 months ago, maybe, but it's been like
forever.
Yeah, it's been like over a year. It's crazy though. I feel like time is going by faster and faster.
Is that age or is it the seasons? I have no idea.
I think it's a little bit of both. And both of us are always busy and touring. And then all of a sudden you like look at your schedule and you're like, oh fuck, it's like 2023. May. It's May already.
It's May. That shook me. When I saw 5-1 come across my computer, I was like, God damn it.
Yeah.
God damn it.
What happened to January?
In January, I felt like I was looking at the year, all of these lists and all of these things, and you go, okay, this is going to happen, and we're almost halfway through.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I like to write stuff down. I have like a calendar, and like I have all my dates, all my goals, aspirations, everything on it. Because before you know it, like all of a sudden you are flipping to that thing, and if you haven't been working towards that the whole time, then it's wasted.
So you're a big list person.
I'm a list guy. Sometimes I'll even like write things on a list that I've already done just so I'm like, oh yeah.
You feel so good crossing it off. Oh my God. I'm the same way. I have like an agenda, daily planner, 6 months, 1 year, 5 year. Yeah. And like when you get to go on that daily planner, I'll put the stupidest shit. Shower, groceries, gym. Yeah. Wow, I'm so good at everything. Yeah. And it's just the best feeling ever. Did you have a little album on that list?
I do, yeah. So I've been working on my debut album for the past like 13 or 14 months. My manager was like, hey, like you should write an album. And literally like as soon as I basically was like waiting to hear that, I think, from somebody else besides me, because to me it's really daunting. And I always wanted to wait until I was like a bigger artist to do an album. But I also have always wanted to like put a lot more intention and thought into a body of work. Not that I don't do that in general, but like I really wanted to write something that was like long and cohesive. So I think it's coming out to like 18 tracks right now. So like a full length LP. I'm breaking it into 4 sections: body, heart, mind, and soul. And the album will be called Periphery. But there's no release date, but I'm like 94% done with it. So.
And you played a lot of it last night here at SolFest.
Yeah. I debuted probably like 5 or 6 tracks from the album last night here.
That's so good. Exciting.
Yeah, it felt really good.
So is it, I love that because I feel like there's something so special, even an EP as like an elementary basis of writing something conceptual, whether it's like an intro, an interlude, an outro, writing songs, when you start to think of that storyline, whether it's like cinematic or BPM or key wise, everything really ending and there's 2 seconds and then you're in the next one.
Yeah, exactly. And I tried to like, by breaking it into those like 4 different sections, I actually had 5 different sections, like in an Excel, like Google Sheets or whatever it's called. And I had them all color coded. It was like hands up, like down tempo, wild card, like headbanger, like just to like give myself like, I don't know, like a way to like conceptually like approach the album. And then even though I wasn't writing tracks to like necessarily fit in those categories, I tried to categorize them afterwards so I could like package up the emotion of that and then try to figure out how like all of those flow into each other.
I love that. And it's really going to be like a transition through time per se, where definitely. It's really going to flow from one to the next. And it's always a scary, daunting thing when you're really passionate about some tracks and you don't know how other tracks are going to be received by individuals. And I feel like with your fan base that is just like ever growing and so big and so supportive now, the way that they are going to interpret certain sections, I mean, that's going to be so cool on your end to see how people who are really fans of yours are like, wow, I love this, but then I love this, and this is my favorite.
Yeah, and for me, like, I've always been such a fan of music, and like, I've always been a fan of like full-length albums and releases. Like, for me, like Welcome Reality by Nero in 2010 was like one of my first like electronic albums.
Same.
That I like, yeah, exactly. That was like so seminal for so many different producers. And sometimes the first pass and even like the 5th pass of listening to something new, if you're not like fully sold on it yet, or like you'll have 1 or 2 that stand out and then the rest like grow on you over time. So I'm excited to see, like, of course, there's always going to be the singles that, like, you're like, they're more accessible. But I'm almost more interested in, like, what's the sleeper songs that, like, really grow on people. And sometimes for me, like, I would see an artist, I'd listen to the album, I'd be like, okay, cool. And then you'd see it live, and that totally would flip my perspective on, like, the experience or feelings or emotions attached to that song. So that's something that is really cool, too.
I feel like that's so not specific, but it's so important in like electronic dance music. And that's a huge thing with you is like that visual representation of, I feel like a lot of your discography, like obviously like it's wonky and sometimes it's headbangy, but it has this like overlying ethereal kind of feel to it that can become very time travel-y, cinematic-y. And the visuals have always been a big part of what we do. Do you have... I want to talk about the album forever, but I'm moving on because I don't want to talk about it too much. But I'm so excited for it to come out.
Thank you.
I do have one more question. I sat down with Taboo a few months ago and we kind of had this discussion on how in electronic dance music, especially bass-oriented music, and like I would say this happens in tech house and progressive house too. You can have like tracks and then you can have like records. And you can have like these tracks that you kind of throw together where you're like, hey, this is a banger. This is going to go the fuck off. And then you have ones that are like, this is going to be streamed so much in my playlist. Everyone's going to know every single fucking word. Would you say your album is like kind of a combination of those or like really record focused, like vocally focused, or more just kind of like a story in time?
I think I tried to do all of it. And I think by having 18 tracks, it allowed me to like have tracks that are like pretty much, you might listen to them in your car, but they're just like bangers, right? For playing live. But then there's also songs that are like 7.5 minutes long. And so they're like full like journey, like you could listen in your car, you could be listening in your bedroom, like friends on a camping trip, or like I do play those live. So I feel like I tried to hit a lot of those. I think there's like 8 different features on the album. So there's like 10 originals by me, 8 collaborators, and 9 vocalists. So I have like a lot of original vocals that I have people do for the album. So hopefully people learn the vocals and sing along, but also like there are like there's an intro, outro, and interlude. And those are just like 2 or 3 minute long, like cinematic, like atmospheres. And there's like no drums or anything. So I hope I hit all the marks.
I love that. I'm sure it's
I'm glad that you're so to it. I'll send it to you as soon as it's ready, which should be like next week, hopefully.
That's so exciting. It's so hard to let, like, it's literally like a little baby that's like actually older than a baby would be.
I'm starting to hate it, which means it's almost done. So like
that's how you know. You're like, I'm sick of fucking listening to this. I just want to put this out. When you put tracks out, are you a big person to go back later and listen to them?
No, not really, but I'll listen to them like 2,500 times before they come out. Yeah. So I like listen. Sometimes I'm listening to songs every day, and it's been a year. I'm to the point where like I'm working with the engineer on like finishing a lot of them, and like it's to the point where I'm starting to like nitpick stuff in the mix, and I'm like,
you become so obsessive.
Well, I'm
so
like,
obsessive.
oh, like a little bit less reverb on the vocals on the intro track from like bar 33 to like bar 47, like. Take down like
you sound like me. I'll sign a list like 40 lines long, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm a bitch.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
Like, okay, I'm getting to the point where like the average listener isn't gonna be like, oh, the melodyne on like the vocal here is like a little bit too much. Like you gotta let it go. But I mean, you're a producer, you're like me, so like you understand. But for the people listening, like there's so much thought that goes into a lot of music. That you don't even like realize. Like I'll even go through one of my tracks and I was like, dude, I'm sorry, but there's this like reverse effects, like it just goes but I thought it was too loud, so I like had to go through the track and like undo it, and that's kind of where I'm at with my album right now. So
it's done.
Yeah, it's basically done.
I'm the same exact way. I'll be the person like re-exporting like root stems, and I'm like, there's this click, and the click is there, and I fucking hear it, and no one else would ever, no producer, no anyone listening to something for the first time would ever catch something like that. And I think in our lane too, even though I don't think my perspective of you is you're not kind of like a producer's producer, where a lot of people who are producers are. It's kind of like, hey, I'm producing technically to impress this producer, when at the end of the day, like you just want to impress like the fans and people who are really listening to the music. But it definitely causes you to be overly obsessive. Yeah, and it's very interesting when you kind of go back. You know, sometimes I'll go back to my Spotify, very old songs, you know, beginning of the line songs, and you kind of think of when you felt like you had a little bit of honing and a step in on your craft. And you're like, oh, I knew what I was talking about. I was really obsessing over this one thing. Now I can't even remember what the thing was. Yeah. I hated the mix down, and now I'm listening to it. And I'm like, wow, if I heard this from another artist, I'd be like, okay, this is cool. Yeah, exactly. And I think that that's like a huge trap for producers, is if you're producing for other producers, you're going to be constantly in this like recursive loop of like self-hatred and like, oh, I'm not good enough, or like you're overly analyzing certain things, and like you get stuck on like, sure, your sound designs might be not as good as Noisia, but like for me, the most important thing is like the composition and like the songwriting aspect. And while like, yeah, you're right, like both of us do like nitpick the small things, I think, especially what I'm impressed with you is like the songwriting, right? Is like at the end of the day, like if the song is good, it doesn't even need to have like the best mix down in the world. It's still like a memorable track. I mean, shit, you go and listen to like a bunch of music from other artists like back in the day that are still basically hits. And like not all of them are technically the best. It's like what's really memorable is like the hook, is the melody good? What's the emotion that the song evokes, and is it timeless? So you literally took the words out of my mouth, because vocalists are so important in that part. And I think now we're kind of getting this shift, especially in bass music for a long time, you know. Really easy, especially when like you're a beginning producer, or you kind of pop off as like a bro step, heavy dubstep. You use those like splice samples, or you use those like, you know, 4-measure pre-drop hooks, like all of that stuff. And when you want your fucking head, I still use some of those. The fucking headbanger and all of that stuff. Yes. I love it. Working with vocalists, is this the first time that you worked with a really large amount of vocalists on like very cohesive verse, chorus, hook tracks?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've written tracks where I've had vocalists on them, but I haven't written a record with a bunch of vocalists. So it's been a really cool process. And like, I'm pretty like flexible and lenient. Like I pick people because I like what they do. So I give them direction, but I'm not like overly nitpicking what they're doing. Only when I need to. If that makes sense.
Open to the collaboration.
Yeah, for sure. I like to like be the conductor, but I don't like to be like nitpicking everything. Which to me, like if you give somebody enough direction and they're talented at their craft, normally like they'll run with it and they'll create something really cool. And it's been nice. Like I've worked with female vocalists, male vocalists, like rappers, singers. Like there's this guy named Can't Stop, Won't Stop. It's like his first ever like electronic collaboration.
Oh, that's so
He
dope.
normally makes like 90s style like hip hop. And so that was really cool to have somebody like that like step outside their comfort zone. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it's been a learning process. Vocals are hard. It's fucking really hard.
That's why there's purely vocal engineers that exist for just engineering vocals.
Yes.
I mean, it's a craft in itself. And I mean, speaking here as a vocalist who didn't touch my vocals for years, now understanding the back end of it and realizing like everything that really goes into it as far as, I don't do my vocals in Ableton. I do them in Pro Tools and then I bring it back into Ableton. It's this thing where you look at the lanes of pop music and hip hop and it's just such a level of respect to those guys who do like Lady Gaga, Impetuous, like all of them, because it's hard.
Yeah, it is really hard. And respect to you for not only being a producer, but doing your own vocals.
Appreciate it. I gotta send you the EP because it's a big change for me. Yeah. And I'm real big now on like after doing, bass music, doing the dubstep, doing a few national tours, I'm like, okay, what do I really want to do with this project? Yeah. What direction do I really want to go in? And for me, it's like, I want to write fucking cohesive records. And what we're both doing is something of a cohesive project. And kind of what I said in the last podcast is just, it's really not easy, but it's easily accessible to try and promote yourself as an artist. But it's very hard because of all of those platforms that we now have to be unique and the way that we can conceptualize a project and really write a full album or a full collective EP really allows fans to see like inside your like third eye. Like, what is this really about? Because singles are awesome. And I think singles from like an album or an EP are very exciting because it's this little tease. But then once you get that whole body of work, you're like, holy shit, you really realize. And that's what I always love about bass music fans is they'll give you the shirt on their back and they'll spend their last fucking dollar on you. And they really see and appreciate what artists put into their craft.
Yeah, no, it's really, really great. And I feel like it's something that's unique to bass music specifically. And I feel like that's something, it's infectious, right? The passion that the listeners have. And sometimes it can be a bad thing almost where people like get so like stuck on like, I don't know, it's like almost over analyzing. I used to do this personally. Where like I would love somebody so much that I'm analyzing their music so much that I'm like, oh my God, do I hate everything that they make?
You're like, fuck.
Like they're that passionate, but like it's really beautiful and like, a lot of that's just like online and stuff. But like once you're in the crowd and like everybody's here, everybody's just like enjoying themselves and like hearing the music, I feel like everything else washes away and like the friendliness of people in this is something that's always really stuck with me and like
that's why I was drawn to this community was the people. It was the people before the music, 100%.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I don't know. It's like a beautiful thing to invite people to watch your creative process too. It's vulnerable, especially like somebody that's doing their own vocals. Like you're singing, you're producing, and like you're releasing the music online. Anybody can say whatever they want about it. Like. Then you have to perform it in front of people and to have people like take that and tell you they love it. And like, even like if 10 people show out for me, like the fact that like I can touch those people in that way it feels like a huge privilege.
And now there's a lot more than 10 people.
Yeah, for sure.
You.
It's kind of crazy. I mean, I just got like a Facebook memory. It was like 4 years ago. I was the first opener at this like 700 cap venue in Atlanta. And I remember at the time, like, I thought that was like the pinnacle of my career. You know, I was like, oh my God, does it get better than this? This is my favorite local venue, you know? And I mean, things have definitely like gotten bigger. So I'm trying to like reshift my goalposts for myself. So I kind of operate in this like never satisfied with myself thing. And that's kind of
good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah, for sure. Like it is good because it motivates me to always be better. But at the same time, like I have to remind myself like, hey, like you did accomplish these things. Like you are enough.
And you never thought you could get there a year ago or a year and a half ago. It's this thing where you really want to try and live in the moment all the while look for what's next. Because you see these things like playing Red, you know, what you said, you tweeted this the other day. You said, you know, my goal used to be to play Red Rocks. Now my goal is to headline Red Rocks.
Yeah.
And in your wildest dreams, in your younger self or your undeveloped artist self, you think that's not gonna be me, and you think maybe in the back of your head like, okay, but as things start to slowly happen, things that you didn't think were possible or realistic from where you came from, your background, X, Y, and Z, you go, holy shit, like, okay, this is actually happening, this is actually possible.
Yeah.
Let's just go for it. And there's this like kind of duality in becoming more successful, or you know, I hate to put it this way, but like quote unquote leveling up as an artist, where things become more easily obtainable, but at the same time, like the pressure weighs down more.
Yeah.
And I know like you kind of spoke on this on Twitter before, where like you do have social anxiety of, you know, whether it's big crowds or being at places where there's hundreds of people that would like to talk to you and meet you, and you care so much, but it takes so much out of you. You know, how have you been able to balance that as becoming a bigger act just all the while?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I still struggle with. I mean, even like here at SolFest, like I'm here walking around, like I'm trying to put myself out of my comfort zone because like, you know, you saw my tweets, like even like a few years ago, I was just a fan, you know, and I still see myself as a fan. Like I'm
a fan. My background right now is you.
Hey.
Like, I mean, probably a couple of years now.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's a good picture of me. I mean, don't get me wrong, Griffin.
Yeah.
But it is. It's just a good fucking moment.
Yeah, I love that. And like, see, I still view myself like as like we're all just here because we like music, right? Absolutely. And so like at the same time though, I do get like social anxiety when all of a sudden like I could not be on
that couch right now.
Thousands of people that want to be like, hey, what's up? And like, you're right. Like, it's super cool to like give people that like moment. And you're like, hey, like, but you know, at the same time, sometimes I'm like, oh, was I like on enough for that person? Like, did I show up enough? Yeah. Or like, you know, sometimes I've had that encounter 10,000 times in one day. But like that's their only encounter with me, so that puts a lot of pressure on me to be fully present.
And breaking that fourth wall, which is sometimes that moment that it really happened. I mean, I think the pandemic was a moment where that fourth wall broke down because you had all these people who started to stream, and you know they're streaming from their bedrooms, and you're like, oh, you're not on the fucking skyscraper like David Guetta, like you're a human. Like you have an animal too.
Yeah, it's just like me in my kitchen. You know? They're like, oh, he has a kitchen. Like, yes, I have a 400 square foot apartment.
Yes, I'm in a studio just like you. And you know, on the back end, it's very much so like you have that fourth wall broken down and you want to leave. It's almost like it's not like a job interview, but it's one of those things where you'll never forget a first impression with something. And that's why on the back end, it's like I've definitely had to kind of not pick and choose, but you really have to be in this mindset and have this commitment to giving your all if you're going to choose to do that.
Yeah.
Or you might as well wait for when you're rested, you have that energy, because you'll walk away from meet and greets and meeting people and walking around festivals and you're like, holy fuck, I just told my life story a million times and it's amazing. And I'm so thankful for every single person, but I need to speak for 5 days.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. I mean, yesterday, like, I walked around for hours and like socialized with tons of people. And then I was like, I need some me time. And that's something that I've learned is like, it's okay for me to be like, hey, I need a second. And I went and I sat in my car in the artist area by myself, and I turned on the AC and I just like sat there for 45 minutes. And then I like got back in the zone and then like was able to come back out. But, I think start to run into issues, you're right. If you put yourself out into the comfort zone, or if you're not, like if you're very bashful, like don't walk around in the crowd until like you're ready to show up to be present for people. It's exciting to talk to people that they look up to.
And it's exciting as an artist too.
It is.
Anytime anybody comes up to me, I'm like, it's definitely this sort of like, I mean, everybody has an ego that has to be filled. Like it's something that a lot of people don't want to talk about, but like, you're like, holy fuck, like, you know me? Like, that's really cool. Like, like, hell yeah, I'll take pictures with you. We'll talk. Like, we'll exchange information. Like, this is so dope that, like, you have, at some point in your path as a person, invest in yourself and me. So I think a lot of people, especially as artists, when you overanalyze everything, that really transitions into your personal life as well. Yeah. Like, I'm an overanalyzer through and through. And a lot of people, when they wake up, it's like, it's their own life and they're going through their frame track. And you don't realize how many other people kind of take the time to kind of hop onto your track and then hop off and keep doing their own thing. And I think that's what's so exciting as an artist is not only do we get to share our creative vision, but we get to be part of people's lives through and through. Yeah. And they get to grow with you and see you grow as an artist. And I'm sure people from Atlanta, same thing with me, Tampa local, Atlanta local, I'm like not local. And you're like, wow, like when you see somebody grow like that, you have a personal attachment to them and to their success.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head. And I think that's really rewarding to me is like I have ran into people and they're like, dude, I've been listening to your stuff from like 5 years ago, like watching your journey has been so amazing. And that's why like when I try to have a lot of interactions, like sometimes it's just base level, but a lot of time I try to encourage people when I do this online too is like, I've gotten to where I'm at, not just by like magic, right? Like I work towards that, but like there's nothing like inherently special about me. Like you can do that too. Like, I remember I talked to this lady who's an Uber driver and we were talking about how, I quit my corporate job and I did music and like followed my passion. And she was like, I always wanted to be a nurse. Like I wish that I could do that. And I was like,
you can.
What's stopping you? And she was like, I don't know. No one's ever told me that. And like, exactly. Like you can, she was like, well, I'm too old. I'm 48. And I'm like, well, there's people that wrote their first like symphony at 50, 60, 70 years old. Like nothing is stopping you. And I really think that left an impression. And that's something that I try to do with my project is like, if there's something that you want, like just do it. Life isn't slowing down. And like, of course, like, there's going to be risks if you're like taking a monetary risk, but like if it's something you're passionate about, you can be passionate about. Nobody's stopping you. And like even if you aren't like the best painter in the whole world, like if you're doing something that you love and like it brings you joy, there's that at the end of the day is better than anything else that can come with it.
Absolutely. And I think exactly what you said. A lot of people detach themselves from their dreams for a number of reasons, whether it's children or a mortgage or the bills to pay or X, Y, and Z. And, there's definitely two sides of that. I think everyone in life is not handed the same deck of cards.
That's very true.
So there's always all of these different kind of perspectives and circumstances to take into a situation. However, I think that there's nothing more, amazing and like heartwarming than having the privilege and the passion and work ethic to make your dreams a reality. And I think everybody has the possibility to do that. It's just what goals do I have to realistically set for me to get there? Because if you go, okay, well, I'm going to speak Japanese fluently tomorrow, you're like, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed. This is going to fucking happen. But you have to set short, obtainable goals over and over and over and over. And then slowly you start to see things happening. And I think an artist's trajectory, everybody's journey is different, but a lot of the mile markers are the same. And that's where you can kind of reflect and go, wow, okay, we're here, now we get here, now we get here, and now we're doing exactly what we want to be doing.
Yeah.
And, a lot of artists, like, I have a day job. A lot of artists have a day job before they get to that position. And I'll always say, if you work as much as you work at your passion in a salary paying job, we would all be millionaires. But that's unfortunately not the game we chose to play. But it feels different waking up every morning and being like, I'm doing this to fuel my dream. I'm doing this and I'm doing this for 6, 7, 8 hours a day working on music because it's something that I love. The time goes by just like that. Sure. And you yourself, you worked at Silicon Valley for a very large number of years. I don't think a lot of people know that about you. So tell me about your background really quick, just for people listening.
Yeah, so I went to college. I got a marketing degree. I actually kind of not slacked off, but I've always done well in school, but at the same time, I didn't try really hard. So I always I think it was because I felt like a lack of purpose or direction in what I was doing. But yeah, I got a marketing degree. I minored in Spanish. I actually lived in South America for a little bit and studied the language. I lived in Chile with a mother and her daughter, and it was with a family. I don't know, that really gave me some really cool experiences. And then when I got back, I ended up getting a job in the advertising industry, and I moved to San Francisco. Oh, there's a car trying to get by, you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That would be bad.
Yeah, he's flashing his lights. You can't hear lights. Well, maybe you can. I'm asking if you can. But yeah, so I got the job at CVS, and it was for a junior sales position for digital advertising. And it wasn't for a lot of money. I had a $2,000 car and some furniture and stuff. And I sold all that. I had 2 suitcases and a backpack, moved to San Francisco, and took the job. I did pretty good at it. After a year or two, I got promoted, and then I was working on pretty large ad campaigns for mostly video game companies. So I was working. CBS owns CBS Sports, CBS News, but they also own GameSpot and CNET. And if you don't know GameSpot, it's IGN's competitor, so they're the 2 big game review websites. So I got to work on some really cool projects. My main clients were Riot Games, who does Valorant.
And now you have your music.
Yeah, which is so weird. Valorant, League of Legends, Apex Legends, FIFA, Gears of War, some stuff for GoPro, Jack in the Box. But honestly, I was working really hard. I was working 50, 60 hours a week. My fiance, Taylor, was running a restaurant, so she was working 70, 80 hours a week.
Shout out Taylor.
Yes, she's an angel. But yeah, we were just working both really hard, and I was waking up at 7 a.m, stay at the office as late as I could. Sometimes leave bread at 5, but I get there early. And I just felt there was something missing. So that's when I really started leaning into music. It was 5 or 6 years ago. And I feel the job gave me a lot of know-how on I learned to write an email. Because you'd be surprised how hard it is to write.
Concise, to the point. Give me your life story.
Yeah, so I learned the corporate side of everything, and I was dealing with pretty big budgets, so there's a ton of pressure on me all the time. So I feel there's a lot of good things that came out of it. But at the same time, I felt my passion for music just kept growing, even though it was already so vague. So I just kept trying to play shows and produce and stuff. And one day it was too hard to do both. The interview tour that we were on.
I remember sitting with you. Yeah. God, we were is in Utah. It was on a Wednesday in Utah. Yeah. And we were sitting up there, and I think you just quit. You were still in San Francisco, right? Yeah. Because that was before you moved back to Atlanta.
It was before I quit.
Oh shit!
Yeah, I was still working.
Oh my God. Yeah. And that was it. That was hey, I have to choose.
Yeah, it was the Peekaboo tour. So I was supposed to work Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. till 5:36 p.m. And go into the office because it was pre-COVID. So they want you to be in the office, be dressed nice. And I got 16 stops on the Peekaboo tour, and I was what the fuck am I gonna do? luckily it was a flying tour. Most of the gigs were like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah. But there was points where like some of the shows were on like, there was like 1 or 2 on a Sunday, or like I was going to be like far across the US, so I wouldn't get home till like Monday morning. So I was like leaving work at CVS after a full work day on Friday, flying to do the show Friday night, flying to do another show Saturday night, and then like getting home Sunday at like 11 p.m. and then going to bed, waking up, and then going back into the office. And I was like, okay, like,
not sustainable.
No, yeah, that was about like the final point, which is still scary because like, I think people have a misconception on how much artists make. Because like by the time everybody's taken like the share out of your fee,
you're pretty much crazy, even if not going under.
Yeah, I've lost a lot of money toward like in the negative to play shows. But once you get over
people
that,
don't get that. You know that, right? Most people do not understand that until you are a very established, potentially headlining act.
Yeah.
And even then, when you see massive headlining acts, they are putting 50 to 75% of their fee into production.
Yep.
And by the time you get 10 to 15% to a manager, 10 to 15% to an agent, you are left with very, very little.
Yeah. So it was daunting. So I was like, if I quit this job, which is doing well for me, like, am I going to like flounder? How, like, I didn't want to play shows to like pay rent, right? Because I didn't want to view it as a job. I wanted to always view it as a passion, something that I loved. But there's a point where you have to like take the leap. It's just like, you have to do it when you feel the most comfortable. And like for me, I wanted to be really financially sound. And that's why I like was willing to play shows and also do work.
You want to wait till that last
90 hour, 90-hour week. But it doesn't have to be like that. I think everybody's situation is unique. It's really about just how you decide like what you're comfortable with doing. And hopefully like there's other producers out there that are watching this. Like there's no like shame, and like people are like, oh, like, yeah, you still have a day job or something. You're like, yeah, of course. Like, why wouldn't I?
Exactly. Yeah. I get to take all my money I make from Lizzy Jane and put it right back into Lizzy
Jane. And I think that that's something that people need to hear too, is like you want to be in a place where basically I hate Amazon and Jeff Bezos, but like the business model, fuck Jeff Bezos, if you're listening. You have enough money to end world hunger, and you don't. Anyway, the business model of like taking everything that Amazon owns, and reinvesting it. They didn't break even until like 15 or 20 years into business. And like, if you want to grow yourself and like get yourself to, because to me, I don't care about the fame and I really don't care about the money. I want to play on really big sound systems with like my production and my own team, but that takes money. So like, having a day job, like hustling, doing whatever, selling merch, like walking around selling your merch, like doing whatever you got to do, doing DoorDash, like if you can like really hustle to make the dream happen, like there's nothing wrong with that. And honestly, it's more helpful than anything.
I went a really long time when I was in Florida. I was set a place. I was paying $500 in rent. It's fucking a dream. Nice ass house.
R.I.P.
Rip. Love Denver. Love it. So much more expensive. And I feel like now, and again, every person is different. Every personality is different. But when you kind of have to balance all of these different things on a timetable, sometimes you're a little bit more on top of it than you would be if you had like 10 hours to do one thing.
Yeah.
And from a creative standpoint, sometimes that's difficult, but from like a filing standpoint, which a lot of artists, not only are you making music, you're doing your social media and you're doing emails and you're doing pitching and you're doing all this shit, like kind of this like busy work that has to be done to get that out of the way in order to really create. And I love that we're able to like transparently talk about this, because this is why I do this. And it's very nice to hear it from somebody who, again, local, climb.
Sure.
And now you're doing tons of headline shows. You're setting up a headline tour. This is the longest break you've had of touring, right? How's that felt overall compared to last year when you were pretty much flying every weekend?
It's weird. Like the first couple weeks, I was like, like I don't know what to do. And then like after that, I was like, oh, thank God. And like me and my fiance, like are going to like matinee movies at like 2 p.m. and like just like things that I never would have been able to do with a 9 to 5 or any other time in my life. I'm like, oh, like this, I don't know. You want to go to the mall? It's like 2 p.m. on a Monday. Like, so like getting to have those like experiences were really cool. And like just watching movies, like I got back into playing like RuneScape that I'm a big fan of. And like my fiance plays Skyrim. So like we both just like parallel play at the same time where she's playing on the TV, I'm on my laptop. And I also got to like work on finishing my album with like a lot less pressure of being like, oh, I have like 5 new shows. And I try to make a lot of my sets different than the other sets that I'm playing. Like I try to make them all be like somewhat unique from each other. If I'm not, I don't have that hanging over my head. But now, you know, I hadn't played a show until last night since like February 5th. And I've been like, okay, like I'm ready to fucking like get back out there. And plus like playing shows, like now that I have like a lot of this music finished up, that's like the real litmus test of like, is it good? You don't know until you like play it for people and you can see their reactions in real time. And just like, I like being like a transient person, like moving from like place to place feels good to me. Like I find solace in that. But at the same time, like playing a bajillion shows last year, I was waking up and I was like, oh my God, one night I'm in like upstate New York. And then I wake up the next morning, I'm in Tucson, Arizona. And I'm like, now I'm in Florida. And that's disorienting for sure. So I know that this fall, like with my album that I'm releasing, I'm going to do like a 35 to 40 headlines like tour that feeling is going to be back. So I'm trying to just like soak in these little moments of going to the mall and walking out.
I think you appreciate the duality when you really get the breaks and then you're on it and then you get the breaks and then you're on it again.
Yeah.
Well, Paul, I'm so happy you got to do this. I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy for you. I can't wait to hear the album. So glad to set. Well, tonight you're doing back to back with
Skeller at I think 1:30 or 2. I should check this everyone. But it's tonight. It'll be wave music is the vibe. It'll be nice and chill. I'm sure I'll sneak in like a couple bangers.
Love it.
It's 2 a.m. You gotta have some like funky shit.
Tonight's Fest on night, so I'll be there.
It'll be dope. I'll see you there.
I'm so excited.
We've been talking about this since like.
I just feel like you and I would always sit down and have like a good conversation because we did it a lot on the BQ tour. So I was like, this is just somebody that would really be nice to speak with. So I really appreciate your time.
And thanks for
love you so much. Thank you guys. See you.
Thanks for listening.